On March 9, 1997, at approximately 1 a.m., Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls or the Notorious B.I.G, was leaving a Soul Train Awards after-party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. After leaving the party, Biggie Smalls got into a car with his driver and two friends while Sean Combs, also known as Puff Daddy or P. Diddy, the CEO of his record label Bad Boy Records, left in a separate vehicle. Biggie's car followed Diddy's car as they headed north on Fairfax Avenue. However, at the intersection of Fairfax and Wilshire, only Biggie's car was stopped by a red light. While stationary, a black Chevy Impala pulled up alongside Biggie's vehicle, and the driver opened fire. The gunman fired at the side window of the car, striking Biggie 4 times. Despite there being 4 people in the vehicle, he was the only one hit. The location where the shooting took place is highly significant. The car was heading north on Fairfax Avenue and had just left a parking structure. They were stopped at the intersection with Wilshire Boulevard when the attack occurred. It's a surreal and unsettling experience to be at the exact spot where this tragic event happened. That's an incredibly chilling thought. To have your last moments be a flash of a gun barrel right next to you is truly horrifying. It's completely understandable why being in that spot would make you feel so uneasy, like you just want to get out of the car. According to multiple witnesses, the driver of the Impala was a black male wearing a blue suit and a bow tie. After the shooting, P. Diddy immediately ran from his car across Wilshire Boulevard to Biggie's vehicle. He then drove Biggie to Cedars Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. Before we get into the suspects, it's important to note the LAPD's unusual handling of the case. Former LAPD Lieutenant Sergio Ott's observations highlight this, as he noted how uninvolved the robbery-homicide division was. According to him, they were on the scene the night of the murder, but disappeared the next day and didn't return to the case for an entire month. A full month went by, and in my 30 years, I'd never seen anything like it. A murder case involving a major celebrity that wasn't immediately taken over by robbery-homicide, he said. That's a very strange detail, but you're right, the same thing happened with Tupac's murder. It's especially odd since the 2 murders occurred in different jurisdictions, the LAPD and the Las Vegas Police Department. If this is a cover-up, the person's influence must be immense. That said, this case is different from Tupac's because I could only find one theory with legitimate evidence. However, it's a very strong theory. The theory proposed by former LAPD detective Russell Poole is that Suge Knight, the former CEO of the West Coast record label Death Row Records, conspired with corrupt LAPD officers. A central part of this theory is that corrupt cops killed Biggie Smalls. The possible motive for Suge Knight was to avenge the death of his record label's star artist, Tupac Shakur, whom some suspect was murdered by Biggie. As you mentioned, Suge Knight has been a central figure in numerous investigations. In a prior case, Detective Poole discovered that members of the LAPD were on the payroll of Death Row Records, serving as security guards. One of the LAPD officers on the Death Row Records payroll was David Mack. His connection to Suge Knight is critical to this theory, as Mack was not only at the party the night of the murder, but he also owned a black Impala, the same type of car seen at the crime scene. David Mack was also allegedly connected to a hitman named Amir Hamed, who he knew from college. This connection led Detective Poole to believe that Suge Knight hired Amir Hamed for the hit on Biggie, as Hamed's appearance eerily matched the shooter's description. When Detective Poole presented his case to his superiors, he was simply told, "We're not going that way." It's an unbelievable response to a theory supported by such specific details and connections. It's difficult not to consider that a cover-up or corruption was at play. Instead of dismissing the theory as wrong or stupid, his superiors simply told him, "Don't look that way." This response is often seen as a sign of something being hidden, not of innocence. Furthermore, multiple individuals have claimed that Suge Knight ordered the hit on Biggie. One of these people was a prison informant named Mario Hammonds who, after Biggie's death, claimed that Suge Knight confessed to him, stating, "My people handled the business, they took care of him, we just missed Puffy." A key question arises, was Suge Knight at the party? Given it was a Soul Train Awards after party, and Knight was a major figure in the music industry at the time, it's highly likely he was there. Of course, in 2002, Biggie's mother, Voletta Wallace, filed a wrongful death lawsuit that led to further investigation. As part of this, investigators interviewed Eugene Deal, who was Diddy's former bodyguard. Deal described a man who was seen lurking outside near Diddy after the party. Deal said this man walked north in the direction from which the black Impala would later appear. When shown a photo lineup, Deal identified the man he saw. That man was Amir Muhammad. Being able to identify someone from a photo lineup, particularly someone you've only seen briefly, is considered very strong evidence. The investigation also uncovered numerous failures by the lead detective, Steve Katz. One of the most significant was his failure to perform forensic tests on David Mack's Black Impala. While investigators can't test every Black Impala, they could have and should have tested the one owned by Mack, a suspect who was also on the payroll of Death Row Records. Hold on, let me clarify. The reason to test the Impala is because it matches the one from the crime scene, and it's owned by a man who was not only present at the party that night, but also had ties to Suge Knight's record label. That combination of factors makes it a very compelling lead that should have been thoroughly investigated. In addition to that, lead detective Katz also failed to interview Amir Muhammad despite the evidence pointing to him. Katz also reportedly forgot to turn in over 200 pages of documents that were hidden in his desk drawers at work. These documents included key testimony that detailed the involvement of another LAPD officer in Biggie Smalls' murder. As a result of this concealed evidence, the judge declared a mistrial in the wrongful death lawsuit. With all the evidence hidden, a mistrial was declared. Biggie's family refiled their wrongful death lawsuit in 2007, continuing to accuse the LAPD of a conspiracy, but this new lawsuit was also dismissed. However, it gets even worse. In 2011, the case was reopened when the FBI's file on Biggie was released and revealed Biggie was shot by Gecko, 9mm armor-piercing ammunition. What an ammunition, so rare that there are only two readers of it in the United States. What? And the same type of ammunition was found in none other than David Mack's home. Because the cop, super rare ammunition found only two places in the US. Yeah. In 2015, Detective Russell Poole, the one who spent years building the strong theory against Suge Knight and the corrupt cops, died from a heart attack. Unfortunately, no arrests have ever been made in connection with the murder of the Notorious B.I.G. However, it is worth mentioning that in 2015, Suge Knight ran over two men with his car, killing one. He is currently in jail. Some might argue that a criminal mastermind would not be so careless as to run over people with his car. However, it's also true that we don't know if he intended to hit them. He claimed he was trying to escape an attack and that the incident was a tragic accident, while prosecutors argued it was a deliberate act. This brings up an interesting point. While some people are brilliant schemers, they may also be reckless. The two aren't mutually exclusive. For example, a person can be a terrible driver but still be brilliant in other aspects of their life. As always, there are other, more far-fetched theories. Some believe the FBI killed Biggie and Tupac to end the East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry, and others even insist that Biggie is still alive, though this theory is less popular than with Tupac. What I like about that last theory is that they are all still alive and friends now. It's interesting how the themes of death in Biggie's and Tupac's albums may have contributed to people believing they faked their own deaths. One theory you didn't mention but that some have is that P. Diddy killed Biggie. I've also heard that as CEO of Bad Boy Records, Diddy would have made a significant amount of money from Biggie's records posthumously, and that there were rumors Biggie was considering leaving the label. It's strange that P. Diddy is connected to both of these murders. With Tupac, it feels a bit more uncertain, but with Biggie, the connection to him feels clearer. It seems that Suge Knight's actions, if he is indeed involved, are very crafty. I'll say that much, but please don't kill me, Mr. Knight. It's one of those things where you feel like you have to be careful about what you say for fear of what might happen to you. But if you take a stand, people might be more willing to search for the truth. In the end, Despite a good deal of evidence pointing in a certain direction, the mystery of the Biggie Smalls murder remains officially unsolved.